In our last video on access request, we submitted an access request on behalf of another member. So an HR pro at the Battalion S1 submitted an access request to make one of the company clerks an HR data user for the battalion. We also talked about the role matrix and how to pull that and look at that and what it means. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to approve that access request as a validator. So there's a school of thought that every brigade HR tech should be a validator for their organization. I would say that perhaps the brigade HR tech should be the validator admin. And the validator admin essentially approves validator requests, among other requests. So in this scenario, we're going to log in as the validator and approve that request that was submitted previously. So I'm currently logged in as a validator here for the brigade. And I'm simply going to go to HR Professional and select the Access Request tile. Now when this comes up, there's nothing there, but I can zero in my search if I know the person that the request was submitted for, if I know the UIC, that if I want to query a group of UICs. I can check for all access requests that are based on a status, so submitted, transmitted, approved, etc. I can look through a period of time, access requests that were submitted through a period of time, who submitted them, and so on. So I can really narrow down the search, but my guess is that there won't be a lot of access requests in the queue. Maybe initially there would be, but really all you have to do is just hit this retrieve button. So we currently have one which was approved and completed, and then we have one which has been submitted. So this bottom one here on a grain is one I did previously in preparation for this lesson. Now we're going to approve the request for the top request, which is Sergeant Farrer, which if you watched the previous video, if not, I'll put an iCard up there for you. That was the access request that we submitted in our first video. So in order to prove this, well, real quick, it tells me a few things. It tells me the UICs for which the access request was submitted, so I know it's for HHC of the battalion. I know what the status request has been for. It's a data user and member, so it's going to give me both of those. It tells me who submitted it, so I can go talk to that person if there was a problem, do some hip pocket training. When, what's the status, who it's for, and the expiration date here, access end date. So what I will do now, if I know that this isn't supposed to happen, I can just quickly click cancel, done. But if I want to go through and approve this, I'll click on the hyperlink here under the user ID. And when the screen comes up, it's going to offer me some more information. So this will look familiar from the access request itself. It's going to tell me the information about the individual, the dates that I want the access to be approved for. It shows me their current role and their current departments. So what that means is they are currently a member in the HHC company. Now we're asking for a new request of HR professional data user for this same organization, HHC company. And I can see the departments that they're going to fall under. It's for the same organization. As before, we can also log in and see what their new roles are going to be. And so if the standard is that this organization, the battalion, does not want HR data users at the company to be approving leaves, I can scroll down here and make sure that my HR professional unchecked this box, which we did in the previous lesson. Okay, and I see that it's been done. Super. If not, I fix it, and then I talk to the individual who submitted the request to let them know, hey, don't forget to uncheck these roles underneath that subcategory. Now that I've verified that, I can minimize it. The last thing I can do as a validator is I can up their view level. So the access request is going to be defaulted to the organization that the individual belongs. So right now they're a member of HHC of the battalion. So any of permissions they get that they will get for this new role will be for HHC and anything underneath it. But if I wanted to amp that up, I can do that from this row security level menu. Now, what would be an example of that? Well, let's say that the battalion decides because of IPPS-A, they're going to take all their S1 clerks and parcel them out to the companies. So rather than each company having a training room clerk, each company will have a battalion S1 representative at the company so they can do the IPPS-A down there. Well, if that was the case, you'd want them to be able to do stuff for the battalion at the company level. So you could come in here and change the row security level, meaning you can allow them to do actions at the battalion level even though they're in the company organization. So to do that, we would hit the lookup button and it's going to give us our choices. So we're going to search by the UIC and we're going to search for AA because we want them to have the battalion, the entire battalion. So if we hit search, it's going to give us all of the choices. So now we see we can give them access to the battalion level even though they're at the HHC. And this would apply to Alpha Company. They could be assigned to Alpha Bravo Company and you could give them access to the battalion and everything underneath it. So they could affect Alpha Bravo Charlie Company actions even though they're in Alpha Company. So we'll just go ahead and select that. And now this individual will have all of these roles at the battalion level, not the company level. So that's a key feature that you're going to want to make sure that you understand how that works and why you would use it. And again, this would be I don't see a scenario in which this would be very common, but there are situations when you may want to bump that permission level to the next echelon above their current echelon. Another example of when we used to use this in the legacy systems was when you might give a first sergeant or maybe the training room clerk limited access to a milpost so they could pull the SRBs that were necessary for submission for actions coming to the S1 shop. The last step we have here, well, the second to last step we have here is to validate that the ELM and the SOD has been done. So we see that SOD verification's been done. It was a yes. And we see that ELM verification was a yes. So what we would want to do here is, if it's a no, we're going to want to read and understand why it's a no. And again, like I said, there's probably only a few instances when that would really be something you'd want to do as a validator, is to approve as an exception as opposed to having the training completed. And I talked about that in the video where we initiated this access request. So finally, I come down here and I see the notes. My S1 HR Pro left me a note, let me know why this access request is going through. And the last step here is to just click approve and the access request will go through. And now Sergeant Farrer will have the HR data user subcat and roles that we approved in IPPS-A. And so that's it. That's how easy it is to approve an access request as a validator. As a reminder, I think every HR tech at the brigade should be the validator, or as we used to call it, the PAS chief, to monitor and manage the access within IPPS-A for their organization. I would go a step further and say that they might want to be the validator admin so that they can approve access requests for the battalion validator. So a battalion can have a validator approve those accesses for their companies so that it doesn't have to be all managed by the brigade HR tech. And then the brigade HR tech, as the validator admin, would then approve who would be the validators at the battalions. Again, there's a lot of ways you can manage that. This is something that you need to think about as you start to prepare for the release of IPPS-A. How do you intend to manage the access into IPPS-A for your organization? Seek guidance from your higher echelons. Division G1, Corps G1, they may have thought about this and are coming up with a plan, and your input into that plan would be helpful for them to affect the entire organization, as opposed to determining how you're going to do things, and that won't necessarily be convenient. So understanding how to do this is extremely important. It will help to set the framework of how successful IPPS-A is within your organization. As always, I ask that you click that subscribe button, like our videos, share them, leave some comments, let us know what you think, let us know what else we can do for you. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. We post the videos on there and we ask some questions. I'm also posting these on S1Net and MilTube for those of you who are behind the Netcom curtain and aren't able to access YouTube from your workstation. I'd also encourage that you send these videos that apply to the soldiers and the leaders who are not HR professionals. I encourage you to share these videos with them so they can start to learn to understand. It might be a little bit easier to see it working as opposed to the clickology of the ELM training that we've been doing so far. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Defend and serve.